All right, breaking down Afterparty. This is a really cool track, and what we're going to do is look at the arrangement, of course. And arrangement is simply telling the story of the hooks and the groove over time. And the hooks are things like vocals and sound design. And then the groove, in the way that I'm using it right now in this video, is the drums and the bass. And so if you think about it, you come up with the drums and the bass, and then you kind of put like a hook on top. And then arrangement is kind of how the story of those elements changes over time. When you get into a break, what happens there? You start to build a little bit of tension, then you explode in the drop. Usually there's going to be the hook over the groove in the drop. Maybe it changes to like another hook or something. But the whole point is, what's the story being told with those kind of main characters? And this track is freaking sick. It freaking blows up over here. So let's dive in and see what happens here. And what I'm going to do is just create MIDI clips for what goes on, and we'll just kind of break down the principles and the techniques being used. Let's go. In the arrangement. All right, so right away, kind of interesting that right away we are getting a little bit of music stuff. So I'm just going to write down the beat. This is just going to be the drums, including the kick. So... all right, and then we get that kind of boom. So I'm just going to call this music for now. Let's go like that. So boom. Okay, cool. Right away, they're doing something that I love, and maybe I'll break that down in a little bit, but there's something in when you're in a scale, like a minor scale, in this case, has 7 notes. When you go from the 6th note in the scale to the 5th note in the scale, in the minor scale, that's one of my favorite moves in music, and they're doing that here. So I'll probably show that in a sec, but let's just get going here. So we got the beat. Let's go ahead and put that up like that. Boom. And then we got the music here. You know what? While we're here, let me just do that really quick. So we'll go get a little piano here. Let's see, what do we got? Let's see, instruments. I was waiting for something to play. E-piano. Yeah, why not? We get a little bit of what's it called? Freaking vibrato on there. So it'd be like boom. So if I turn this on, so right here. So let's turn this way up so we can hear it. And then they're going to the 5th right here. So and then going back down. And then it's that next little thing that they do over here that's really cool. So okay, so right there. So they're going back to here. But right before that, we've got this nice little minor 6th right there. All right, whoops. So hold down Shift. There we go. And so they're going to be in D sharp or E flat minor here. So if I then fold the scale and fold it up, let's just go to the scale. There we go. So they're going 1-5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, and then right here, 6-5. And that's what gives this kind of like eerie, melancholy vibe. It's my favorite kind of note movement ever, really. And I try to put it in every single one of my tracks. Well, for the most part, when I'm making music, I just love that 6-5 movement. Let's keep going. All right, I'll turn off my little piano there, though. Okay, and then we have bass. There we go. And then, so this is just going to be off beat. So I'm also going to write like HP for high pass, HP for high pass. There's also a string. So I'm just going to put a string, and maybe I'll change this to like little piano-ish. And then this will be string. And usually strings will play the fifth. Let's see what they're playing here. It sounds like they're playing just the tonic. So the tonic is just the first note in the scale. So we'll just go like that. There we go. Yep. All right. All right, you can hear a little bit of like vocal texture coming in there. So we're just going to do like vocal texture. And like, you know, by texture, I just mean it's like textural within the context of the track. You know, it's not supposed to be this big vocal part. It's just this kind of like vocal texture. Also, I want to note that the bass is... The bass is just playing the offbeats, which is a very popular thing to do right now with that electro kind of influence. And that's just playing a lower D sharp. D sharp's a really nice dark key, way down there. And yeah, it just sounds nice and dark. And then right here at the end, they change it up. So let me play that. So we'll go to Command J on here. And then they just step up. So let's see. There we go. And so we're just stepping up. So here they're going 1 5 1 5 1 5 1 6 5. Again, my favorite. 1 5 1. And then here they're going 4 5. They're just stepping up right there. So that's cool. That's cool. I like that. All right. All right, cool. And then we're just getting a little bit of an edit here-ish. So I'm just going to create a little edit map right here, which should be like this. So you can hear. So you can kind of hear, hold on one second. So kind of cool thing here, and I don't know if this is what's really going on, but just from hearing this right here, is you can hear the bass comes up in volume immediately. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4. And so my guess is that the bass pattern is actually like this, but it's just getting sidechained on the first one through something like Kickstart. But Kickstart is on a audio trigger mode, which means that it will trigger when it receives a signal from the kick. But here the kick goes away, so you're getting the full bass. And so you're getting those 4 hits. So you get this hit and pretty much full volume. But again, I don't know if that's what's going on, but it seems like that's what's going on. I'm just going to do a little fill map too, because I love fills. This is just part of the clap or the snare technically right here. But little fill. All right, cool. So obviously now we're getting into the full, here we're getting like full kick. Here we got full bass. All right. And then thing I like about this is just very unceremonious, right? It just goes right into the low end. You got that 16-bar DJ intro. You got the next section, 16 bars. And with that, we're just going to create kind of like the little top-level formula of the track. And so this is just going to be intro. So we'll go intro, color that brown. So here we go. And then we've got bass drop. Bass drop is where you just drop the full bass, you know, and that's exactly what happens right here. Very standard. cool. So from the bass drop, now we are going to go into the break 1. And this is what's going to pull us into the next drop. So it's kind of cool. So we got like no kick. So I'm actually going to write that. So it's going to be like eighth note and bass hits. Okay, how should I write this, right? I'm just gonna write like bass is on the 1. Let's see, the 1 and the and. There's a better way to say this. Bass is on the beat and off beat. Is on both the beat and off beat. All right, so full kick. So let's see. So I don't think that's actually the kick there. I think that's just the tops loop. Again, kind of going in that kind of indie dance direction, kind of disco tops here. So we got these guys, and then we're getting the bigger vocal. So one of the things you want to do in the break is you want to give them a break by high passing or removing the low end in some way. So you can see that the kick goes away, and that was just get tops. So no kick, just tops. Are we getting the full bass? So I'm going to come to the analyzer. Yeah, we're still getting the full bass. Look at how low that is. Yeah, that's sick. All right. Okay, so I'm just, oh man, dude, what's going on? There we go. So let's go to Command R, full. So the bass is still full here, which is really cool. I like that. All right, but we're getting a different vocal here. So this is going to be like Vox main probably. Again, this is, it's all about the story of the hooks and groove over time. And so if we look at this right now, like the groove is just kind of introduced here. High pass for DJs. Here the full low end comes in, right? So nothing crazy. And then here we're getting in the hooks, we've got some vocal texture and we've got these cool kind of atmospheric string and then little kind of piano-ish melody. Definitely not a piano, you know, I don't care what it is, but just something that provides a little bit of atmosphere. It's not quite a hook, it's more atmosphere. But then here, when we get into the break, this is where the hook changes in a big, the groove changes in a big way by removing a low end. So people stop dancing and they kind of just shuffle. And then you have an opportunity to put the hook on top, right? So you're shifting focus from the groove, the full groove here, to the hooks right here. And then you bring them together over here in the drop. So shifting into the hook focus here, and that's why we're introducing the vocal main, because people aren't dancing. What are they going to do? Otherwise, they're just going to stand around and be bored. So that's why you give them the hook here. And this is just a rep of yeah, so let's see. You can hear kind of a cool delay on that, kind of a delay in the top end. So kind of like a panning or pong, like ping pong delay. That's kind of cool. Maybe there is like a kick, but the click right there, all low end is removed there. So, all right. And then we're going to get, I'm just going to put this on another track because, so we got a Vox resonator. All right, so this is like Vox res. There we go. All right, and then we're gonna get Vox dry, we'll just say. So we'll put this down here. So a little bit of a call now, right? So that's not a full phrase, that's just a call. All right, and then we get the full phrase, so a little bit of call response right there at the end, a little bit of tension, and then we're also doing a little bit of layering here by getting the resonance vocal in as well. So you can just see the cool kind of development. It's nothing crazy, you know, as soon as we go into the break, then it's like, you know, one of the things you could do is you can hit them with the main vocal, right? But then producers always struggle because then like, well, do I keep playing the vocal again? But here's another mental model, right? So one mental kind of model would be like full vocal, or structure, we used to say, rather than mental model. Probably easier to understand. Just a simple structure here is like main vocal, just drop in with the vocal, and then you can do a little bit of a rep. All right. So you just repeat on like a word or a phrase through here, snare rolls, all that stuff. You don't want to build too much crazy tension over here because you don't want to take away from really building epic tension over here. But here's another structure. Here's another structure you can play with, is that for the first 8 bars, you can just kind of start to tease what the vocal is. Now, they're not really teasing what the vocal is because they're just saying, yeah, but, you know, you're just not getting the main vocal yet. You're just getting a vocal, you know, which is funny because this is actually similar. And to risk people jumping from the video, I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to just go to this track that's coming out. I don't know when it's coming out. But I kind of do this in this YouTube video that I'm going to be releasing pretty soon. And I do the same thing. Watch this. So let's go to about 15 seconds. And then when I go into the break, I'm just going to be teasing the vocal. I'm not giving it away. So my neck, my back, my neck, my back. All right, and then just a little bit further down the line, I go into the full vocal. My neck, my back. Right here. My neck, my back, lick my pussy and my crack. My neck, my back, lick my pussy and my crack. All right, now this was made many months ago, you know, but it's a similar idea. I just want to show you another execution of this idea, where what you could do is you can give like a partial vocal and then a kind of a fuller vocal, you can say. All right. Again, just another high level structure. So someone's not sitting there lost. What should I do? You know, which is perfectly fine question, by the way. But there you go. That's something you can do. So now we're just getting the kick click right here. We got the full bass. We're getting the vocal. We still have the atmosphere stuff going on. So no more kick and bass right there. And I can't believe it, but I completely the kind of mid bass layer that's playing in there the whole time completely escaped my attention, which is crazy. If you've ever seen that video, where like you're told to count the balls, wow, that's really funny. But you're told to count people passing the balls and how you're supposed to count how many times they pass the ball to each other, and then this gorilla like walks through the middle of the scene. I totally fell for that. I did not see the gorilla at all, if you've seen what I'm talking about. But this is a similar kind of thing where if you're just focused on something, it's so easy to get tunnel visioned and ignore something glaringly or blaringly obvious, either one of those. All right, so this right here is... yeah, okay, so we got that right there. So, all right, and then how does that develop? So this just kind of, the cutoff opens. Cutoff opens. There we go. So what's interesting is this bass right here doesn't have any sidechain on it. but this kind of mid bass does. So that's kind of cool. I like that because like, you know, one sound is just straight eighth notes and the other one is kind of like a little bit of an arpy kind of bass on this bass mid right here, but it's bouncing. You know, it's kind of a cool contrast between the two. Not that the producer's sitting there thinking, you know, I want to create this interesting bouncing contrast between the mid bass and the that's not what's going on, but you know, it's interesting, you know, it's there. We can observe it. And so that's what we're doing. Cool, and there we go. And then we're getting that a nice little fill, kind of like what we got here. So a little foreshadowing of the fill. All right, sick. And then we go into it. I'm just trying to listen if there's any development in the drums when we go into the drop. So let's get over to the drop here. And I'm going to call this the hook drop 1 because where you put the hooks over the groove. That's what you do. All right. And then, so let's see what happens. All right. So we get a tiny little entry synth. So a little entry is where it goes bump. So we'll go entry. And you can get anything, right? You can get a little synth from Splice. You can look for one-shots. You can program it from scratch for 10 hours if that's what you're inclined to do. But to each their own. Oh, that's sick. I like that. Okay. This groove is sick. It's simple. It's a very kind of meta groove, meaning like it's just pulling from what's kind of really popular right now, which is that kind of closed hat, a little bit of an indie dance, kind of disco drum vibe, the offbeat bass from the electro. But what's cool about this, like, is that lower octave bass down there in D sharp. Like that really is giving this groove a lot of character. And that snare has a really interesting kind of sound to it. Interesting. So this little entry synth right here starts wide, but it sounds like it's the same sound as something that plays over here. Right here, that sound too. But what's interesting is the first one is wide. What the heck did I just do? Oh, crazy. Hold on, let me fix that real quick. Yeah, there we go. And so this one is wide, but this one is mono, or down the middle. I should write down the middle. Not just because something is not wide doesn't mean it's mono, right? You can break the stereo image into thirds. So imagine like over here, you know, if this is left and this is right, right? So you can also imagine here's mid, here's side. So here are the sides. Then something, you can break down the stereo image into 3 sections, right? So something doesn't have to be freaking mono like that, right? You can imagine something in the middle of the stereo image. And so anyway, so here we go. Maybe they're slightly different. Whatever. We'll just treat them as slightly different, but I will just keep that naming thing. So this is just going to be like stab. And we'll just map all these things out, right? Because these are all hooks, and arrangement is how the hooks and groove develop over time to take the listener on an exciting roller coaster journey from start to finish. All right, and then we've got that mid bass. Oh, okay. Distant joint. And so right here, we're going to get like LP up and HP up. So a high pass up, low pass and high pass up. Cutoff opens just means the same thing as low pass up. And then here we're high passing up. And then here, now we get like the full blast, we can say. Oh, that's interesting. So there's going to be some cool interaction here. So I'm going to mute that. Okay. All right. This is cool. So, and we'll just create like a glitch vocal. So we'll do Vox glitch. And yeah, let's map this out. This is cool. All right, so we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, just on the beats and off beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So, ooh, that was cool. Okay, whatever the heck that is. So like, I really don't even know what to call this. Like, man, there's also this like this high resonance sound in there, like higher harmonic with some noise. Okay, I'm just gonna call this the freaking, I don't know, like OTT, stab, OTT. I don't even know. It just sounds like everything's getting brought out of that thing. Okay, this is just stab, typical. Sorry, stab, but that thing's just typical. That thing's crazy. It's almost frog-like. Maybe I'll just do like a frog. Oh my gosh, frog. Cool. This is cool. This is like super heavy sidechain on this thing. Okay, and then that thing starts up again, and by that thing I'm talking about the mid bass kind of ARP. Bass mid ARP ish. I'm using ish a lot today in this video for some reason, but that's because I'm not trying to be like ridiculously precise. We just gotta see kind of what's going on, and we could do it on our own. Okay, another little stab right there. I think it's gonna be this guy. So okay. So this is going to be on the offbeat, so I'm just going to put it there. Cool. There we go. Okay, and then this starts a little bit early. Okay, and then we're getting to get that little entry again on the 4. So by 4, I just mean the 4th bar. This is where 1, 2, 3, 4, or I guess technically after the 4th bar. But when I say the 4, I'm just referring to about halfway through the 8 bars right here. So okay, and then we have this yeah right here. So we'll do yeah, and yeah, and this goes on the offbeat. So let's go to here, like that. All right. Cool. And then we get so and then we're gonna get the yeah. And then we're gonna get this nice little offbeat hit. And so you can start to see the pattern that's established. I wonder if these guys are playing over here or not. Let's see. Nope, clean, no vocals right here. So this is a tiny little bit of a lift within the 8 bars over and above the pattern that starts earlier. And we'll break that down in a second, but okay, and then of course we're gonna get this crazy sound. And then of course we're gonna get this guy again. And then we're gonna get this guy right here. Okay, sick. And then we're gonna get another, we'll get like a little glitch. We'll glitch this guy up. So delete. Cool. And then what I'll do is just kind of pull this back a little bit just so we can see the spacing. Okay. So there's no last one, I don't think. Oh yeah, there is. I just was playing it from the wrong spot. Okay, cool. So okay, bass kick goes away, or so let's do like a kick cut. And then the bass is full, so no sidechain right here because the kick is going away, which again makes me think that they're using some kind of like kickstart audio trigger. Okay. We forgot to take the mid bass away. All right, cool. Man, there's so much we can talk about here. Maybe we'll cover it, try to do it pretty quickly. But there's two things here. We've got the pattern and we've got the punks. And what is a pattern? A pattern is one of the most important concepts for producers to understand. This is the pattern right here. And then that gets repeated, which is kind of part of the overall pattern for the 8 bars. But look at what happens. It's a simple pattern that someone can understand. We got the entry, and then we've got this stab that triggers kind of like the vocal glitch, da 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 da. We've got another little frog sound or whatever. Then we get the little vocal resonator thing. We get that stab again because it's in a structural location, right? And then that repeats. But we get these extra little flares, little ear candies that just pop out, that still exist within the pattern. The pattern still changes. If I take that away, now it's exactly the same, kind of. Because then the other little flare thing that happens right there is at the end, we're glitching the spectral resonator to create a little bit of an edit going into the next 8 bars. But what the pattern is that sequencing, the intentional sequencing of the sound. And producers just want to get so complicated with it. I say keep it simple. Look at one thing is really playing at a time most of the time, right? Boop, boop, boop. This guy kind of plays again, but again, that's structural. Boop, boop, boop. These kind of play at the same time, sure. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, and I forgot about the mid basses too. But simple, right? And it can't really be a pattern if it doesn't get repeated. Producers a lot of times are afraid of repeating. Is it too repetitive? And a lot of times, no. I want to hear it again because, it was cool. Let me hear it again. One thing you could do, though, is if you could just lift or change the context a little bit. So, for example, in the next 8 bars, look how there's a ride on top. Or there was a ride. There was a ride in the beginning. Okay. And then it goes away. But that was kind of cool, that little ride lift. Okay, but that's a pattern. Patterns just create an intentional sequencing of sound that allows the listener to jump from sound to sound and be excited about it. And don't worry about it, and then give it to them again, right? Okay. And the second thing is punks. So punks is like the idea of, similar to the idea of ear candy. Ear candy I don't find to be a helpful concept because it just is like randomness. Just do random shit. And that doesn't help anybody. And it actually makes songs terrible. Kind of exactly like what we were just talking about right here. But punks is structured ear candy. So punks comes from the idea of punctuation points in grammar. So if you have a comma in the middle of the sentence, maybe you have like a period at the end of the sentence, right? And so there's a kind of similar grammar to an 8-bar section where, maybe you have something in the halfway point, maybe, and then you have something towards the end, and maybe you have something in between those. And so there's a structure to the layout of the sounds, right? There's another way that I usually say this too, but it's escaping me right now. But just to move down a little bit, we can see how this is broken down. And so usually you have something at the the punk at the 4-bar mark, right? The punctuation point at the 4-bar mark, or the punctuation at the 8-bar mark, right? Those are the most important. Just like a comma is less dramatic than a period, the 8-bar mark here is going to be more dramatic than what comes in halfway through. All right, but you can see this halfway mark is exactly where the pattern then switches over and repeats. All right, but here, so this would be what I call P8. This would be like a P4 area. And then in between those two, we can chunk down, and then we would have like a P2 or a punk that happens at the 2-bar mark, or a P6, a punk that happens at the 6-bar mark. But you can see that the layout here follows that very closely, right? We can even talk about entries. When I say entry here, that's just a P1. It's just a punk that happens at the beginning of the 8 bars. You can also almost think of it as like the capital letter at the beginning of a sentence. You know what I mean? But if you check it out, like, let's look at what's going down. So here we have this, but then so if we play this, okay, we get this guy, entry, P1. So I also like to think of punks and clusters, all right? So this, for example, for me is like a P2. And a P2 and a P6, which happens over here, are usually always the same. They're very similar. And then when we get to over here, this is going to be what I would consider the P4 cluster. Well, especially this guy. This guy is what I would consider the P4, because it's kind of what pulls you into the halfway mark. All right, so we got the entry, we've got the P2, we got the P4. The pattern repeats in the same way. So we got kind of a 4-bar little entry, or another P4, you can call it. And then this is also a P4 right here. And then we have the kind of P6 cluster here now. And then we had the P8. But you can see that just the structure of it, right? The structure of it, the simple presentation of sounds so that the listener can listen to it when they're freaking like out of their mind and get excited about it. And, enjoy the moment rather than being bashed with a bunch of chaotic sounds that don't connect with each other at all. So. And one last thing I want to add to this idea is, to the two things. We talked about pattern briefly, punks briefly, and then the other thing I want to add is texture, this concept of texture. And the concept of texture is that the sequencing of the sounds is textural, meaning that like we're moving from different kinds of sounds to other sounds. So we can check it out. So we've got this guy, wide little stab sound. This is going to be a resonant center stab. Okay, now we're going to get a vocal glitch, right? That's different than the two preceding sounds. Now we're going to get this crazy frog OTT sound. That's different than the last 3 preceding sounds. Now we're going to go into the vocal resonator. That's different than the preceding 4 sounds. We get that stab again. And then also this guy right here, the mid bass, they're all they all add up to provide a lot of sonic texture to what's going on. And so that it keeps it interesting. The brain is not just jumping from sound to sound, but jumping from one sound to like a categorically different sound or a very different sound, and that's cool. That's really cool. And so then that again repeats here with these extra little modifications with the vocal accents here. And then that little kind of glitch or chop at the end to pull us into the next 8 bars. All right. So then we have this guy once again. And let's go like this. Okay, and so then here, what we can do down at the bottom is we can create like a little crash. And let's put this here. So a little crash. Well, I don't know what the heck that sound was. Both the one in the track and the one that I made. But this is going to be like a little perk fill. So you can hear like right away, boom, kadip. All right, so we could just map that out just in case you're not hearing that. It's just happening right here. So it doesn't matter what the notes are really, but like, so hear that? Da, da, it goes left, right too. So that's kind of cool. That's cool. All right. That's just an entry. It's an entry stacking or punk stacking. You're just stacking sounds on top of each other, but they're serving to make that moment more exciting. We're also getting this guy, and I suspect that the pattern will repeat with some modifications, but let's just kind of duplicate this over to kind of show my confidence level here. I could just be, wrong, but we'll find out. Okay. That's sick. And then we've got a ride. Cool. And then, of course, on the vocal, we've got just a little bit of extra flourish. So on the dry one here, we'll put it. So it's the joint. So let's just zoom in. It's okay, cool. Now we're not getting the vocal chop there. Okay. And we're still getting this sound. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to treat that as the same sound here. And then we will just put this guy on the offbeat. And I'm just going to knock it down an octave. It's probably just to demonstrate, just to show that it's in a different spot in the MIDI. Okay. So it's kind of like a weird delay. So I'm just going to color that a random color. And then we get the ride. Notice how the ride is kind of playing with the, it's a joint. Okay, then we're going to get this glitch for interesting. Okay, so here we go. Okay, and then we get this guy again, but it's a little bit of a call response because here we're going to get a double hit. So here, but we're going to knock that down an octave. So check this out. So look at the call response here between these two guys. So here we just get one hit, here we get two, but that's a call response. Okay, then this guy comes back, and by this guy I mean the mid bass again. Okay, we're going to get that hit. All right, cool. So if you've watched these breakdowns a lot, then you'll see that this is actually not very common, where you're going to change the pattern a little bit. And I say a little bit. This is a lot of bit. They're changing the pattern quite a bit. You can still see though that these kind of underlying punk structure here with the 1, and then this would be like the 2, the 4, the 6, the 8, and then these are even just kind of in bar by bar. This is still saying relatively the same, but let's see what happens here. But of course, what we're going to get now is just a repetition of this, I would imagine. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to delete that now, and I'm going to move this over. So let's see. Okay, so let's also bring this over. Okay, and then we're going to get the joint here, and we're going to get it on the vocal resonator, which is kind of a callback to what happens over here, right? Not necessarily a callback. I don't mean that it's the producer is sitting there again deliberately thinking, oh, now it's time to do a callback to the break earlier. No, that's not what's going on, dude. They're just putting the resonator on there because they think it's cool. They are putting the resonator under here though, close to the end, because it is the last thing, right? Like you just do something kind of cool at the end, just like what happened over here. The reason why I'm calling it a callback is because it's a similar move, right? Because here you get that layering of the dry vocal and the resonator. Here you're getting that layering of the dry vocal and the resonator, you know? So it's a move that's being made, a little bit of a motif, you can say. Ah, sick. Okay, so this is going to be the full line. Like this. All right. All right, so kick cut, So no bass, so very dramatic right there. Okay, so no little vocal glitch. Let's see what if we missed anything. Okay, what about this guy right here? Is this guy still playing? Yeah, what about this? Oh, okay, so this is the sound. Because I know that this was a pattern that was playing, but that has now evolved into this guy. So let's see if that double hit plays. Okay, we're still getting that ride, playing along with It's a Joint. So we're not getting this, so we're getting a big kind of edit over here. So this is kind of like an extended party. So either that was performed or you just stretch that out. Party. Stretch that out in the audio. Okay, maybe we'll go like this. Par. And then this here is T. There we go. Party. Okay, so then that comes back. All right, did I miss anything? Let's see. Okay, we got that cool, exciting percussion fill. Okay, so right here on this guy, do you hear the percussion fill? Because it's not there. Again, just check, look out for that stuff, see if it's there. And let's say that we're producing the song and we're using this as a map to kind of come up with ideas, right? Not to follow it necessarily one for one, although if you wanted to do that, go for it. But if you just wanted to use it as a way to come up with ideas and you miss this, let's say that the percussion thing was right there and you missed it, it's not the end of the world. It's really not. It's not the end of the world. So let's see. All right, cool. Okay, nice. Seems like we got everything. Okay, let's create this guy. So here we go, create that. This is for the beats. Let's get the bass here. All right, so we got the let's bring that over here. We got the crash. Okay, we're not getting this pattern anymore. So what you could say is we're starting to move into an A section, B section. So I'm going to now, so we'll call this HD1A. Okay, and then this is going to be HD1 or hook drop 1. Sorry, I'm using acronyms. HD1B section. And so then let's go to white. There we go. Okay, so now we're getting the full mid bass playing here. This thing just keeps on going. There's kind of a cool effect. It's pretty soft, but it's like this kind of effects like down. Definitely noisy and almost sounds like it's like a phaser or something on that, but not quite, but it's pretty cool. Some kind of, it's not auto pan. It's almost like it's a vibrato on noise or something. Like, yeah, or like, I mean, maybe it's just a filter on noise, but you can hear it on the sides, like it's, and you just have the regular kind of, LFO on the filter. And then you just have a regular kind of noise blast as well. I may have forgot things earlier, but let's see. Let's just see if there's any kind of like effects that we've been missing over here. Nope. Nope. Okay, then we're getting that vocal texture from way back in the intro. Okay, cool. And then we're getting a, not just a but now this guy's like, man, this guy's like really affirming, right? He's like, yeah. Okay, and this is going on the 1. All right. Okay, and then that little LFO filter stuttering there too. It might just be the delay that was on these vocals, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't think so. So it happens right there-ish. Kind of on the offbeat there. Cool. Ah, that is a vocal delay. Damn it. Okay. I'm just going to do Vox weird delay. Yeah, it starts in the same spot, I think. Yeah, it does. So this is the same thing over here. Okay. That's very cool, strange delay. It's almost like the delay is, again, like has either some kind of filtering that's moving fast through it or some kind of like vibrato on it. Same with this, or even just a tremolo on it. Same with that though. Similar kind of texture. Maybe I'm just gonna move these up here. It's not even a delay. I'm just gonna put it in the vocal texture track. But that's interesting. Maybe I'll color them slightly different colors. It just keeps repeating. Is that the same thing? Let's see. Does that happen over here as well? Let's see. Yeah, it does. Is that what's going on in the intro? No, that's completely different. Okay. So we'll just create a Vox weird delay. Cool. The thing about these kind of tracks is like you just get to have a lot of fun with like tantra and stuff like that. And that's where you can get weird things like this. You know, it's extremely unlikely that they're sitting there building up these effects from scratch. Like, let's get a filter and filter up to the top end. Let's get an auto pan. Let's get maybe there's no reason why someone couldn't do that. But most of the time, a lot of the time, you're going to get that kind of stuff through hitting random on a multi-effects plugin, because you're going to get things that you would never think of when you're just like, holy shit, that's sick. Okay, cool. So we got out of the first drop here, and what do we got? Arrangement is about hooks over groove, right? The story of hooks over groove. So what story's been told? Well, here we've got kind of, you can think of like this as pattern A, and then we kind of got like this pattern B. These things down here stayed pretty much the same, except for that extra kind of synth that we got right here. But we got a big change in kind of the way the vocal was presented in the second 8 bars. And then the B section would be defined by mostly the mid bass coming in full. So this A section here was dominated by kind of these interesting interactions between the vocals and these kind of bits of sound design. And then the B section again is just the mid bass, right? Just that like mid bass kind of ARP thing. I'm calling it a mid bass, but it could just be a synth, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. But yeah, very cool. And that's it. So let's keep on going to see what we got. All right, we got that crash again. Crash doing a lot of work. Okay, we got our little piano-ish back. Okay, we're getting a strip here. A strip for me is just going to be like usually kick, bass, hook. But specifically where you're stripping back the drums down to the kick and the bass. That was what I wanted to say also. Back here, you can see that the groove itself is not changing very much at all. Yeah, it's not changing like right here, I guess, these guys. This is not changing. It's just basically the beat and then the bass. And then everything else on top of it is you could think of like the hooks, the pattern. That's what's changing. That's what's kind of evolving. Now, if you were going to do something in the groove, like you could just do like a hat lift, a ride lift. They do have a ride come in here, but it's kind of just this little accent that sits on top of the vocal rather than an actual kind of full-on ride lift. You can also lift with 16th note shakers. There's tons of different ways that you could develop the groove, but in this case, the groove stayed relatively static as the interest was the hooks changing on top. All right, so let's get back over here into the strip, and I'm going to color these purple because that's the strip color. All right. It's the joint for the after party. All right, now we have the vocal dry, and we're just going to steal these guys real quick. Joint for the after party. It's the joint for the after party. Ah, so that's actually how it's said. My bad. Earlier I was saying. Let's see. This the joint for the after party. I thought he was actually stretching it over here. I didn't remember that party was extended like that, but. This the joint for the after party. Okay, well then that's just the lyric. Okay, cool. This the joint for the after party. All right, we're getting that crazy kind of LFO delay continuing. This the joint for the after party. I don't hear the string, so if we listen over here, right, we don't hear that over here. This the joint for the after party. Ooh, glitch. Okay, let's see. This the joint for the after party. So that's just a glitch on the it, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's get rid of this. It's the joint for the after party. It's the joint. It's the joint. All right, and then we got the it's a joint. Just doing a little teasing, and then there's that kind of it at the end. It's the joint. All right, cool. It's the joint for the after party. There's a little hit right there. I don't know what the heck it is, so I'm just gonna call this hit question mark. Because who cares what it is, but there it is. Awesome. It's the joint. Ah, it's the start of something. You hear that? That sh. It's the joint. Okay, just some really random kind of lift there that's just playing on the beats. Okay, so some kind of noisy hit. Why not? I'm gonna treat that as a drum element. So like that, because that's kind of like, it's a pretty common thing to do is like when you have a strip right here, then for 8 bars, then in the next 4 bars, you can lift with something. So the example that's popping into my mind right now is Pausa Hot. And I'm not going to try to find that right now, but if you listen to it, then I think it's Hot, but maybe it's a different song. I forgot. Anyway, doesn't matter. There's so many examples of this where through a strip section, you lift in the second half right here. A lot of times it's with like a hat, like a closed hat or an open hat, doesn't matter. But in this case, it's a random noise sound, you know, just a creative execution. It's the joint. And you can hear that pattern on the piano-ish thing continuing with the da-na and then da-na, right? Step down, step up. That's still continuing. All right, now this is very common. This is where now we're gonna, so no lows, but tops. So you move from the low end to the tops. And this right here, this whole section is gonna be a main break and build. So maybe what we'll do is we'll kind of chunk this a little bit into the 4 sections that usually make up a main break and build. And this first one's going to be the bridge. We're going to do MBB, main break and build, bridge. And this is where you bridge from the drop to the break. And that's going to be the next thing right here. This is going to be the break, right? This is where, like, you know, low point, big hook, usually. All right. And then this is going to be an MBB build slow, where you kind of start to build a little bit slow. And then this is going to be MBB build fast, where you start to get crazy with all the snare rolls and stuff like that. So let's color this a nice turquoise. All right. So this is the bridge. Again, here we're full energy in the drop. Then we step down into this kind of bridge section, which is going to move us into a lower state of energy. And, yep, let's get now into the break. Okay, this is unique because the kick is still going full on. Usually what you do is you step down, you remove the low end here, which is what makes a break a break. But here, I think that it's still going, isn't it? Yeah, look at that. They're still going, both of them, the kick and the bass. Sometimes you can't, I don't trust my ears. Like, are they really doing that? And then I go look at the spectrum analyzer, and sure enough, they are. So this is going to be kick plus tops. So not technically a strip anymore, but it still feels like a strip to me. So now we're getting the string. You can hear that string in there. A little bit muffled, so low passed in other words. Okay, we're getting all the joint stuff. Let's delete or duplicate that over. Okay, I'm going to come over to here because this is where he had that kind of weird delay. I'm just going to bring this over like this. So, like that. Okay, cool, man. This is kind of cool. So this is not standard, but that's why I like it. Like what they're doing is they're starting to actually kind of build, because you can hear that the LP up on the low pass up on the mid bass coming in here. The joint with that delay is starting to create that chaos and that space that you want to move into in the build. We've got that atmosphere in here with the piano and the string. Actually, this is actually really perfect because this is what I was talking about before. If we just brought this over, you would get a lift in the hat right here, which is exactly what I was talking about before. But so instead of like the strip only happening in 8 bars, they're just stretching it over 16 bars. But this is kind of what it would sound like if we lifted in the second 4 bars here. It's the joint for the afterparty. It's the joint. A little too much going on there now, you know, but like, you know, that's what can happen a lot of times. You just lift with the closed hat. But here we're lifting with the closed hat. So this is not kick plus tops. I was being a little bit too hasty. This is just kick plus hat. Kick plus hat. Okay, so here we're going to get that removal of the kick. Okay, this is where now you can think of also an A section, B section to the main break and build. So for example, Like you can think of it as like A is break, and then B is build. Another way to break it down is break down energy. This track doesn't fit that model as much, so this would be up energy. Because we're really starting to build right here, but we really make the definitive move at 97 with that kind of bomb, and then we're really going to get those tension building elements. But so we got that kind of impact right here. Okay, we're going to get like a little bit of a reverse Vox. So right around here-ish. Just to pull you in. Okay, we're going to get that kind of white noise blast. All right. So these are all just calls, right? These are all just teases to pay off in the final 8 bars here is the joint for the after party or whatever the heck he says. So these are going, what do we lose up here? So bass is going, kick is not going. I'm going to switch this back to red. Okay, there we go. Your big tension building element, the snare roll. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, one thing that's cool about the bass is you can hear it high passing up. So you'll feel the weight of the track go away. So if I play right here, weight of the track because of that lower part of the bass, here there's no weight to the bass. We can even see that in the spectrum analyzer. So if I just go like this, back here, oh boy. See that? So where is he sitting? Around -8. But if we play over here, loop around that just because. See that? It's certainly not at -8 anymore, that's for sure. Okay, you can hear kind of like a nice resonant white noise riser coming up. Here-ish. Again, there's the ish again. I don't know where that's coming from today. Ooh, sub drop. Nice. Okay, so sub drop. Notice how the impact and the sub drop are marking when these changes happen. So right here, impact, big move, right? We're making a big change in direction in terms of the energy. We're going up now. So the kick goes away. We're removing the kick. We're removing the anchor of the track. The track feels suspended, which naturally creates tension. Here, we're really kicking things into gear when we go into that last 8 bars because this is where we kind of build fast. So this is where we build slow, but this is where we start to build fast and just, go crazy. Okay, and that's what I mean by crazies. We're starting to get these risers. So we've also got this riser tonal. By tonal, I just mean, rather than noise. So, okay, we got the snare roll. We got the mid bass. We got the joint. I think this is still in here. That piano thing, that's still in there, just very quiet. but I think it goes away in here. All right. And so the sub drop, the impact, they're just kind of systematically taking things away. Okay, another sub drop here. Okay, the snare roll is pitching up. Okay, these risers kind of go away. One of them kind of peaks out with that kind of auto pan and resonance. Okay. Okay, so then we have this kind of there's like this interesting. The effects in this track are really interesting. So we have this kind of like 8th note noise, which just kind of literally is playing 8 notes and just kind of like comes up in volume. So what are we at? 16ths. So it just kind of goes like this. Okay, and then here we go LP down. Okay. So then we have the res down here too, LP down res. Res just means resonance. So, but they want it clean on party. So that's what's going on here, which is good. You know. And then here we have fill, but it's just one little snare. And then we have the epic freaking Hunter-esque what's it called? Bass sound. So epic I can't even think. Okay, so cool. So let's get that monster synth on top of there. So I'm just gonna call this monster bass. You know what? I'm gonna call it Hunter bass. Well, I guess that's not the right way to spell it, is it? Hunter bass. There we go. Okay. Oh, that was cool, because then he goes into that one sound that he had a lot. So these are all just 8th notes. I'll just go like this, duplicate, see which one we need to. Okay, so here it sounds like something happens, but I think it's just a delay on this sound. Okay, and then again, this is a strip right here, which is just kick, bass, hook. So just stripping it back. That's a crazy sound. What a moment, man! I'm skipping over this. And this is the most important moment in the track, right? Rather than just like, you know, making these and just mapping out all the sounds, like we have to talk about like the moments. Like arrangement is the story of hooks and groove over time. And that moment right there is what this all adds up to. This is the most important moment in the entire track. And you can hear that it's just insane. When I first heard that, I was like, holy shit. It's a really huge moment. And it's cool because it's a little bit of a denial of expectation. You kind of expect it to go into something familiar that you've heard, but you just get this huge kind of like bass sound or, stabby thing. And yeah, it's just a huge moment right there, especially over the strip. And then we get back into the normal things, but what we need to do is figure out what other sounds are in there. And again, I feel like I'm moving too fast. So if we just go back and look at the main break and build on and cover and finish these ideas, is like, okay, well, here we got a strip. Here we got a little bit of a lift with the hat in the groove. But with the hooks, again, just interesting kind of patterns. We've got this pattern through the bridge, this little first 8-bar section. But then here, starting at the second 8 bars all the way to the end, is this kind of just call and tease on the vocal. And then below that is just that kind of atmosphere that was introduced through the intro. So nothing really crazy here. The most interesting thing is, check this out, is if you think about it, I was talking about how the groove in the drop pretty much stayed pretty static in the drop. And the interest was in how the hooks were changing. But in this section here with the main break and build, it's almost the opposite of that, right? Because look at how, we're getting this little section right here with some vocal variation or whatever you want to say. But here, it's pretty much static with the hooks. Like that vocal just keeps on saying, it's the joint, it's the joint, it's the joint. Now the piano and the string thing are just kind of coming down in volume slowly over time. But the biggest changes that happen are going to be the groove story and how the context of the groove changes. Here starting with the kick and the bass, here lifting with the hat. Now the kick goes away and the bass is kind of coming up. Wait, what's going on over here? Bass goes away here. Just slowly removing things from the groove. And then on top of all those changes, we've got the effects. And the most important effects are going to be that snare roll and then these kinds of risers down here. But so that's pretty cool. And so you can see how we start to build over here. And then that's kind of slow. We're slowly starting to build. You can think of it as like an exponential curve over time. But then here it just gets crazy, right? That all leads up to the moment where it's the joint from the Afterparty. There we go. And then we're back in it. So let's go get the other sounds here. And yeah, different sounds, but very similar. Imagine getting like a Hunter remake or something and then just using the sound. Like that's a badass sound right there. Or just using the I Can Has Kick and calling it a day. I Can Has Kick waveform, or wavetable, in Serum. Okay, so we have that frog sound. So we got to bring that back over here. So okay, and then we have, so I might get all of this stuff here. And if we copy that over, is that being too premature, you can say, like we were earlier? Although it was an educated prematureness. So that's okay. All right, let's see what we got. We don't have this. We don't have this. We don't have this. We do have the frog sound. We don't have the vocal resonator. We do have the stab. And then let's get this chop over. Oh, snap. He's going for 8. Holy shit, watch out. Okay, and then we have this guy here. Okay, then we get the entry. Okay, we don't have these guys here. Okay. Whoa! Okay, no, that's right. I thought those came a lot earlier, that response sense. So, interesting. What the heck are they going to do? Is this whole drop thrown off time? Nah, is it? No, it's not. Interesting, though. What are they going to do over here? All right, let's see. I'm curious because this is all moved over 2 bars. Like all that stuff happened here at the beginning, and then now it's all shifted over 2 bars. What are they going to do? Probably something like this. Frog sound. Wow, what? Okay, that's interesting. And so we're just going to duplicate this one, I guess, or this one. Let's see. Okay, so we don't have this vocal. Okay, we do have the kit cut, which brings that bass up that we've seen. So let's get rid of that. So this is not a strip anymore. This is full drums. Does it sound like there's some kind of texture on top? Yeah, listen to that light ride. Ride light. Okay, there's a little bit of like white noise on top of that. Where's my, do I not have that? I guess I'm going to just do whatever. Just white noise. Oh my gosh. I'm just going to do WN. So you can kind of hear that goes up and down a little bit. So it kind of goes up, and then down. Oh, is it going to let me? It won't let me. Down. There we go. Oh, whoa. I just got dizzy. All right. There we go. And then we get this light ride right here, which is cool. Cool. Okay, entry again. Okay, we're going to get a, ooh, then we get a bigger ride. Dang, doing some ride stacking here. Okay, where's our entry? We got entry and crash. Okay, nope, doing the fake ride thing again. All right, so let's go over here. They're keeping us on our toes for this breakdown. Very cool. All right, let's duplicate. There we go. So we got this ride thing, but it's now we don't have the vocal underneath it. Okay, so let's get rid of this and we'll just go find the glitches. Oh, what is going on? They're just going, this is blowing my mind. Because they're just reversing how it was presented. Because if they were going to present it the way that they had before, you would start with the double hit over here because the double hit was the response. But they just kind of literally, again, pushed everything back 2 bars, and that pattern is continuing. But, all right, fair enough. You can hear that kind of little percussion fill again over here. Of course, one of my favorite words or phrases to use in these videos, of course, because of course that happens. Okay, so we got this guy. Frog. Okay, finally we got some vocals. Okay. All right. Okay, what else is playing in that section? I feel like I hear that ride. I think that ride's in there, so we'll just keep it there. Okay, we definitely have this sound. It's almost like the vocals sidechained under these stabs. Okay, we get that kind of percussion thing again right here, the percussion fill. Okay, we got the entry. Okay, we got the yeah, Let's get the yeah, over here. Okay, we got the glitch. Okay, we got the offbeat. Wait a bit, what about this guy? Okay, cool. We got the frog. Okay. So no dry vocal here. Okay, but then we're going to get the double right here. What is going on? Okay, so here we have a double. Is that what really happens? Let's see. So you get the double right there. Double right here. And then we get the single. What the heck is going on? I don't know if this was intentional. But whatever. That's hilarious. Then we get the double there, but then here we get the kick going away. Okay, cool. But still, interesting thing to see is that we're still going to get this kind of structure. But here we're going to have hook. I'm just going to call it HG2, right? For hook drop 2, A is going to be like, we could just call it like punks, ear candy. You can call it that. Again, I'm not a fan of the ear candy terminology, but when you understand the idea of punks, then you could talk about ear candy. I was going to say in a little more intelligent way, but you know, I don't want to go too down there. Okay, so then here we have the mid bass. Ooh, you know what I did not pay attention to whatsoever is the mid bass. Wow, that mid bass is not playing at all. Yeah. Not at all. Interesting. And then we just go right into here. We got that crash. Let's get that our crash friend over here again. Now we're going to get this kind of vocal thing again over here. Okay, cool. Little glitch over here, right there, I think. Nope. Okay, starting on the offbeat. Okay. Joint for the after party. And that's also on the resonator. You can hear that the little mid bass thing gets a little bit thinner, so you're just high passing up. Fair enough. Going into a strip in the outro, why not? You know, doesn't matter because DJs are going to be mixing out at that point. But then we have these sounds over here. We got that nice little, we'll just put it on the white noise channel because it's just white noise up there. Although it's going to be a kick clap. So strip, kick, I should say snare. It's more of a snare, isn't it? It's a clap snare. Who cares? we go. So now we're just going into kick. I like how this string just sounds like it's whining. It's just drifting in pitch. It just almost sounds like it's whining. Oh shit, what happens at the very end? Nothing. All right, cool. Man, what a cool track. Like, when I do these, sometimes I wish that I just didn't hear the track for the first time, because it's like, then I would react in a super excited way when these moments came in. But when I know when the moments are coming and happening, then I get into like a really, much more academic frame of mind, because I'm breaking it down. And it'd be cool to like kind of mix the emotional side of music, which is reacting to it, experiencing it for the first time, experiencing it, and doing the kind of breakdown at the same time, the kind of more clinical side of it. But so I caught myself right around here, because this moment is like, when I heard that, I was like, oh man. But this track is number one. Like, what is cool about this? What do we like about it? What do we learn about the arrangement, about the hooks and the groove over time? And it's almost always the same story. Starting at the really top level, if we just look at the arrangement's really simple. It's what I call the HD2 formula. And the HD2 formula is exactly this. It's very simple. It's just intro, and then you introduce the bass, and then you go into a break section where you usually remove the low end in some way, right? You give people a break, they start shuffling. Then you hit them with a big hook so they're not bored, or so that they have the space to learn the hook. And then you go into a drop. So intro, bass drop, break one, hook drop one. That's where you put the hooks over the groove. And then you go into the main break and build, where you kind of separate the hooks and groove in some way. And mostly just by breaking down the groove, exactly as you saw here. And then you go into hook drop 2, which brings the hooks and the groove back together. So everyone's excited. It's what everybody wants. Everyone wants the hook over the groove. And then you go to the outro. And so, again, yeah, just to simplify, because there's too much commentary on that, the HD2 formula is intro, bass drop, break 1, hook drop 1, main break and build, hook drop 2, outro. And this is that, right? It's just a unique, original execution of it. And so what's unique and original? What's cool? Why is this popping? Like, what? Jeez. Why is this cool? It's the answer's always going to be the same. It's going to be a big hook over a big groove telling a simple story. We've already looked at the simple story, the HD2 formula. So what about the hook? Well, is this the joint for the Afterparty? That's a cool line. That's a cool line. It's using meta techniques right now. So for example, and meta just means like what everyone's doing, what's popular in a way, So for example, the spectral resonator, the electro bass line, the indie dance drums with the small hat and that kind of eighth note kind of indie dance kind of, hit steady eighth note rhythm. Geez. And then, so yeah, just using a lot of the meta elements and the groove and the hooks with the spectral resonator. Something that's cool about the vocal that I like is just one phrase. It's time. What is it? It's the joint for the Afterparty. And like when producers are like, man, I just had this vocal. How do I turn it into a full track? Here's an example of how to turn a short vocal into a full track, And then what else? What other, so aside from the vocal hook, which is very simple, and we can see exactly how it's laid out and how it's being used in different ways, right? How to get mileage out of the vocal is a concept I like to think about. They're glitching the vocal. They've got the spectral resonator. They're doing call response. All the standard things, nothing crazy. A little bit of some vocal texture here and there using like Tantra. Again, an extremely popular thing to do. what about the sound design stuff? The sound design is really cool. You're gonna the whole A section, especially here in the beginning, is just this call response between the vocal and these textured kind of sound design pieces that again are part of the meta, like a resonant stab, like kind of weird sound. You know, think of like Chris Lorenzo, what he's doing. You know, there's others that are coming to my mind, but I can't. There's others that need to come on my mind, but I can't think of them. Odd Mob, for example, using crazy sound design. And then going into the B section with that kind of like mid bass layer. That's cool. Cool little melody. And so it's just assembling cool things that people want to listen to, cool vocals, a decent lyric. Like, I don't think this lyric is as good as something like I don't trust a soul, I don't even trust my bitch, or even the Sid track with fancy shit. I like money, fancy shit. Buy me stuff. I know you rich. Like, that is really cool. But like, this is still a cool vocal used in cool ways. And then good sound design, all part of the meta. The groove is solid, big groove, again, part of the meta. And bringing all that together in a simple story. And there you go. And then the freaking insane strip moment here, going into that kind of Hunter bass, right? Pulling something in again from inspiration, but super sick. Very simple. And a really, really good reference track. The one thing that I would be, if someone was using this as a reference track, like a producer I'd work with, I'd be a little bit, I almost want to say worried, because they would think that they need to do all these subtle kind of changes, like going from this here in this first 8 bars to this 8 bars, or then moving into this 8 bars is different than the first A section over here. Like, you wouldn't need to necessarily do that, you know, and I could imagine someone just getting really frustrated and overwhelmed by trying to come up with all these changes. But you wouldn't even need to do that. You could totally, for example, zoom out, just come up with a pattern, And then, so for example, if I was going to take this guy and duplicate it for that, and then bring this over here, right? One thing I would want to mimic would be the kind of standout moment right here. So color that yellow. But this could be like just a little bit of a lift. So I'll color this red. So imagine you establish this pattern and then you repeat it. But what you do is you could just throw like a ride on top of it. And then maybe at the end right here, you just have a slightly more dramatic edit, you know? And so like the structure would kind of look like this. So this would be basically the same, but in the second 8 bars, you get a little bit of like a drum lift, like a ride on top. And then you do a little bit more of a dramatic edit here because we're switching over to the B section. And then over here, you do the exact same thing, right? But maybe you just instead have also a really dramatic entry, like what they're doing, maybe even longer like that, you know? And so it would be like that. So that's something you could totally do because you're making use of the hook pattern and you're playing that for 16 bars. But then you're just allowing the pattern to continue by lifting with something like a ride, an open hat. Max Tyler, for example, really likes to use like 909 hats to lift in this style of drums, right? So you can still use like 909s and typical tech house sounds. And then again, just over here, you could do the same thing in the A section, just lift it in some way, right? You could do a drum lift over and above what happens over here. You could do a more dramatic entry, which is what they're doing. You could do more dramatic edits, but you can still keep that pattern the same. You don't have to reinvent the pattern like what's going on here. But, you know, there you go. So great reference track, great track overall. I can see is why it's number 1. And if you got your own questions or own insights or comments, leave them down below. Same with questions. If you got any questions, leave them down below. That's it for this breakdown, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.